Hello, hamjambo. Welcome to Swahili Kingdom. Karibu katika Swahili Kingdom. And in today's video, you are going to talk about the power of stories in learning a language. Okay, I have a question that you are going to answer yourself at the end of this video. Here is the question. Have you ever wondered how you learned your first language? How you acquired your first mother tongue before going to school? Let's say you started speaking your mother tongue when you were 3 years old, okay? And you had not gone to school yet, but you could communicate with others. You could understand what other people were saying. Have you ever wondered how you acquired that language? How you know it so naturally and you had not gone to any textbook? You had not gotten any grammar lesson? You had not read any textbook or had any teacher before you went to school? You could communicate, right? So my question is, have you ever wondered how you acquired that language or how you learned that language? Can you do the same thing in Swahili? Just acquire it the way you acquired the other language. And it only took 3 years for you to acquire. Maybe right now you are 4 years still studying Swahili. You know all the grammars, you know all the rules, but you don't have it in you. That means you have not acquired it, so you can't remove it, okay? You have not acquired it. So how did you become so proficient in it? Of course, you became proficient because of, I'm giving you my answers, but at the end of this video, answer yourself how you are going to start acquiring Swahili. As, of course, you need to do grammar because you are no longer a child who acquired, and you won't be forgiven by using the wrong. Every time you use something wrong, like a child always does, because they make a lot of mistakes, but they have acquired the language. So it is natural when you go to learn some focused grammar so that you can sharpen your skills when you start talking what you have, when you start using what you have acquired. Yeah? So I'm going to give you my answers. First of all, they engage in immersion. You actually engaged in immersion activities. For example, let's say you watched cartoons, or maybe you went to play with other kids, and when you went to play, you are using that language. Whether you knew it or not, you are using things that could help you in that language. Another thing, when your parents were talking to you, that is another way of immersion. When they were talking to you, you are listening and you could answer back. Another thing, when you are maybe reading a book, maybe you find a book somewhere and you just go through it. There are some people who like reading books. Maybe they started when they were still young. Some people who their parents used to read to them bedtime stories when they were still young. So those are some ways of immersion. So those are ways for a kid. What about when you are an adult? How do you get immersion? Very easy. You can listen to YouTube videos, YouTube music. Talk to someone else so that you can get what they have, get their content and give them your content so that the two of you can acquire. Okay, so at the end of the video, make sure you answer yourself so that you can make your goal clear that you want to acquire Swahili. You don't want to learn grammar alone. You want focused grammar and acquired Swahili, so that when you have acquired that Swahili, you can remove it with the grammar that you have, okay? Because there's no use of learning grammar if you don't know how you are going to use it or with what you are going to use it. That is zero work. And there's no use of acquiring when you don't know how you are going to apply it using grammar. Because when you acquire and each and every time you are speaking, you are saying the wrong thing, people are going to get bored and they won't listen to you all the time, okay? So, stories will help you to be immersed in a language. For instance, if you are an adult who is learning a language. So how do they help you? Let's look the three to four advantages of stories that they are going to help you. Or maybe, let's say for instance, before we get to the advantages, let's say for instance, you want to acquire Kiswahili or Swahili, or you want to learn Swahili and you don't know which method you want to use. So you get a teacher or a tutor because maybe you believe they are going to help you to speak. But one of the secrets is you are the only one you are the only one who has the ability to speak. The teacher cannot put that ability in you. They are going to help you, but they cannot put that ability in you. Then, when you get a teacher, they give you grammar. And then now you are getting grammar, and you are wondering, why am I not able to speak? But you are only getting grammar. You are not acquiring the thing. You are not acquiring the language. So you can acquire the language through videos. And this video is about stories. Stories are going to help you in these 4 ways, okay? The first one, stories are very great tools for memorizing vocabulary and phrases. You see how people used to memorize by using list of words, and you just memorize list of words out of nowhere. Your brain doesn't work like that. But when your brain uses a story, it can memorize words. Why? Because in a story there is exaggeration, there is visualization, maybe there is hyperbole. There are very many things that are going to get into you, and they will help you acquire that thing, okay? They are not going to make you memorize it like the way people memorize. You read a word, or through cards, you go through a card, you read a word, then you come back to it again, you come back to it. When we are talking about stories, you are going to use something else to acquire or memorize the verb or the word. Exaggeration, hyperbole, all those things are going to help you acquire things, okay? The second thing is stories give you context. Story give you context. For instance, when you are reading a story about, let's say someone who was studying Swahili and they have achieved a dream, a story like that one, maybe for instance. So that story, it is giving you context. You are reading about something specific. So when you go to acquire those vocabularies, you're going to get a lot of things, because you know this vocabulary is from this context, right? This vocabulary is from this context. It's not just a list of words that I'm going to acquire. So stories are arranged in such a way that they are going to help you acquire. And more to that, from my first point that I have said, story will help you acquire because of the way they are written. Maybe that context of that person you are reading about, that person who has studied Swahili, or a story about someone who is learning Swahili, for example, you are going to get vocabularies like kujifunza, kusoma. Those things are going to stick because you are getting them from a context, from something specific. They are not lists of words that you have to memorize, okay? So stories are good at that. Another thing, stories teach us grammar and syntax in the most great way, or in the most natural way. How? Because when you are reading a story, your brain is going to create a pattern, because brains are very good at creating patterns, okay? So your brain is going to create patterns. Let's say you are reading something. For example, you read a question, je, wewe unaendeleaje, or na wewe je. So you see, for example, someone was asking me, where do you put that je? Is it in front or at the end? Because the first one I asked, je, unaendeleaje? How are you doing? Remember, J is used when you want to ask a question, okay? You can ask with the J, or you can ask without. So, J, wewe unaendeleaje? How are you doing? And another one is, na wewe J. You see, those two are different, but when you go to grammar, grammar is not going to give you a detailed explanation of why those things are like that. Even if you're going to get a detailed explanation, it's 90%, or it's more probably that you are going to forget. It's more probable that you are going to forget. Why? Because you are memorizing why this thing is used like this. But when you get it in a story, your brain is going to acquire that pattern, and you will find yourself using that pattern even without knowing sometimes. Okay? And about syntax, it is going to help you. For example, when you have someone who is helping you to read a story, or you get a story and you get an audio, okay, where you can read the story and then listen to the audio, see how those things are pronounced, and then read. The thing that I usually say, shadowing. Then read how that person is reading, then that one is going to help you in the pronunciation without going to grammar. The way grammar is telling you, should be pronounced like this, ba like this. I don't know, those are a lot of things. But when you are having a story, you are going to do it easily. You are going to pronounce easily because of following, okay? Shadowing. Another thing, stories enable linguistic, cultural, and immersion. When you read a story, most probably when you read a story in Swahili, it is talking about a certain place or it is talking about certain people. So people are different. When it's certain people, they have certain cultures and they are doing certain things. So when you engage into a story, you are going to be immersed in their culture. You are going to know how they are doing things. You are going to know why this thing is done like this. And that thing is going to, that immersion is going to help you more and more and more as you acquire more things. So stories are superpower things to use when you are learning a language. Okay? You are going to acquire, you are going to immerse yourself, you are going to follow the context to acquire vocabulary, where you are not just using lists, okay, or cards where you get to this one, then the next one, then that one is a bit tiresome. I'm sorry for saying that if there are people who are using cards, and there are people who are using cards, of course, and they see that method very efficient, but stories are better methods to acquire vocabulary, to get vocabulary, because you are getting from a context. Okay? Asante sana kwa kutazama hii video. Natumai umepata kitu ambacho kitakusaidia. And by the way, I have 3 stories right now that can help you. The first one is Nyamachoma, which is talking about 2 siblings who came from America, came to Kenya to learn. So there are very many vocabularies for you, especially if you are a beginner. I wrote 1,000 words that you should know as a beginner. They are inside that story. So it is going to help you to acquire vocabulary in context because you know what you are talking about. The second story is about Maria mwanamke wa ajabu. It is talking about, the main themes in that story are friends, family, and work. So friends, family, and work. Who doesn't have a friend? Who doesn't have a family? Who doesn't have work? If you have those 3, that book is going to be effective for you to get more vocabulary. And then the other story is Kipepeo, a story that is talking about someone who has a dream of learning Swahili, of teaching Swahili, of acquiring this language, but despite of that, they are getting a lot of things from around, okay? Because when you are doing something, there is always other things around your environment. So that Kipepeo, that girl is trying to beat those things, and finally she achieves. So you're going to get a lot of vocabulary in hardship, how to deal with something, how to comfort, okay? So, and I also teach lessons. I also teach Swahili through stories, through focused grammar, through mazungumzo. We get into the things, we immerse ourselves, we read. If you are interested in learning Swahili with me, you can contact me via the number that is written there or the email address learnswahili with Connie. You can also comment down below this video, or you can reach out through WhatsApp through my number that is, or through Instagram. Asante tena, tuonane tena siku nyingine. Kwaheri.